outside the theater review of one battle after another, the new Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Thomas Anderson, the great movie, high level, loved it, thought it was great. Uh, but there's a few caveats, so we'll get that to a second. So just want to caveat there. But before I go into it, show versus business, we talk about business, we talk about movies, we talk about TV shows. So this is a great channel. If you like what you see, go subscribe and like it. But look, I want to talk a little bit about this movie, one battle after another, right? It was highly anticipated. Some say maybe even the movie of the year. Leonardo DiCaprio, he doesn't do that many movies. He does maybe one or two movies every year. And Paul Thomas Anderson, great director. He's done There Will Be Blood, Magnolia, two of his top movies, in my opinion. I didn't see Licorice Pizza or some of the other ones he's done recently, like Phantom Thread. But definitely dug There Will Be Blood. Just very interesting character study. This one dealt with a lot of interesting topics, things that we're dealing with now when it comes to immigration, when it comes to issues with race, and just what does that all mean right now here in America. And I thought that was a very interesting take on a lot of different things. So, look, did I like the movie? I kind of spoiled it already, but yes, I thought it was a great character study of what it meant to be a revolutionary and give up things that mean important to you. Actually believe that the first third was probably the best part. The whole origin story of Taylor's character. I thought that was great. What it means to be a revolutionary and believe it so much that you would give up almost everything, right? And first story was definitely resonated with me the most, right? I thought at the very beginning that was like strong. And then obviously in the last two-thirds kind of was more Leonardo DiCaprio's story and what that meant to be a father, and dealing with his past as a revolutionary and what that meant. And then obviously the young daughter named Willa, played by the new actress, I think Chase Infinity is her name. She did a great job of just kind of carrying the storylines to the end. And special shout out to Sean Penn, great actor as well, doing his whole military take, complete with a unique walk and a unique way of talking. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. Just this whole, a character study of what it meant to be a military man and what that's all about, right? But anyway, so what does this mean? What is this story about, and what is it trying to kind of advocate? As a parent, I felt it was something that was very important. Just what does it mean to teach your kids about your past, but more importantly, help them to be the future that they want to be. And I thought that resonated to me. As a matter of fact, the guy a little misty eyed a little bit when you know at the end, when there was this whole story about he and his daughter connecting and all that. I love that part. And I have a daughter as well who is around that same age. And so you felt that father-daughter connection, right? And so that was really important, right? And so one of the things that really resonated with me also was just what it meant to, like, pass your values to your children, right? You want to protect them from the world, but then they have to be their own person. And I thought that was kind of interesting, unique. But overall, so what did I think about the movie, right? So I thought, like I said, the first third was great. Tiana Taylor and her character arc and what that meant. Then, just got into this kind of weird kind of character study between two men, right? And this woman that they both loved and how they kind of reacted to that. And basically one who embraced it and one who did not, and probably hating himself for wanting someone that he believed he didn't should have or anything like that. That was inferior with what he wanted for his future. I think that was an interesting kind of character study, right? The military guy versus the revolutionary, right? And what their arcs were about. Leonardo DiCaprio at this point, he's Leonardo DiCaprio. It's funny. He's really more of a comedic actor. Tell me if you didn't see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that you did not believe he was a comedic actor. I mean, or The Wolf of Wall Street, right? The whole scene when he was on Quaaludes, right, on drugs, and dealing with that. I mean, there's just always a scene in every movie he's done lately that he's just going to act weird and different, and it's going to be hilarious. And so he really needs to be in a legitimate comedy. I guess maybe Don't Look Up, the Netflix movie about the end of the world. That was a pseudo comedy, but maybe he just needs to be a straight up comedy at this point. I mean, because this guy is hilarious. I mean, even the material was very dark, and in some areas of this movie and some of the scenes that he does his Leonardo thing, right? They just the camera. I don't care what director he's working with. I mean, I'm seeing it so many times. I mean, from Quentin Tarantino to Paul Thomas Anderson to Scorsese, they just gonna let him cook. I mean, it's basically just put a scene up there and say, just let Leonardo cook and let him do what he does, and they just let the camera roll. So it doesn't matter what kind of uh, well, the only way I didn't see that in is probably Inception. Christopher Nolan didn't go for all that nonsense, right? He just let Leonardo cook, but everyone else is letting him cook in certain scenes and things like that, especially lately as he's gotten into his fourth, almost fifth decade in the movie business, right? And so I would say that. But overall, I mean, great character study. I mean, definitely I love the basically it was a story about people of color, right? Obviously, you had two white leads, just be honest, but it was about people of color and how they react to what was happening in the world. Obviously, you had a young black woman revolutionary and her child was biracial, but you also had the revolutionaries around them, right? Played by shout out to Regina Hall, Wood Harris, doing great work and limited screen time. But it was about them trying to change the world. But then you also had um, a, Benicio del Toro, he was playing a character that was used to kind of always being around this type of environment and dealing with it and having plans to kind of deal with police and what does it mean to help immigrants in certain areas. And this is very timely now. We don't really talk about politics on this pod, but sometimes you can't avoid politics and entertainment. And obviously, this is a very timely movie when it comes to thinking about sanctuary cities and ice and things like that. So I thought that was very timely. But people say these shows, movies are all timely. Personally, I don't think that's the case. I think these things have always been there because even during, maybe 8 years ago, there was always stories about immigration, so these are themes are not going away, they're just getting worse. And so when writers write about these things, they take years. Then when they finally come into production, it's just basically a continuation of the thread that was happening back when they started writing these original stories. So any story you see now is absolutely something that was happening 5 years ago. It's just with small threads, but now, as we live in 2025, these threads are just getting a lot bigger and larger. And so like I said, I think these are things that people are saying, oh man, these filmmakers are so wide and they're thinking about the future and all that. I think they're just writing where they are now and just extrapolating what the future's going to look like. For instance, if you're writing something about AI right now, I can guarantee it's going to be something that will happen in the future because we're experiencing the rise of artificial intelligence, what it means to live in a society that's been driven by this new type of technology. And so it's just a given that entertainment will just and imagination is unlimited, right? It's undefeated when it comes to what can happen. So when great artists like Paul Thomas Anderson or other directors or writers kind of put this stuff together, it just makes sense that it's going to be kind of very prophetic of what they're delivering. So anyway, so I highly recommend you go check it out. Some were saying this is probably going to be the movie of the year. I would say there was a couple things that I thought maybe the third act was a little kind of contrivance, and I don't know if you watch any of Paul Thomas Anderson movies, but the ones I've seen, they seem to kind of drag on just a little bit long. You're like, where's this going to end? That seems kind of a little, tour process seems a little too much for me a little bit sometimes. Just get to the end and tell the story that you're trying to tell. So the third act was a little bit long, but I did feel like that it did sum up the key themes of fatherhood, what it means to be a parent, what it means to kind of believe in your what you're thinking about. It's just a lot of things that trying to happen, and make it happen. So I think these are the things that are trying to, evolve and what's happening for the future. And then shout out to a few of the folks commenting on here. You know what? Tom Cruise did actually get a shout out in this movie. And I was thinking, has Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Cruise, I don't think they've ever done a movie together. That's interesting. I mean, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise have done one. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio have done one, but I don't think they have ever, Tom Cruise or Leonardo DiCaprio have never done a movie together. So that would be interesting. So I think, this is a movie that needs to be seen, needs to be experienced. Does it need to be experienced in a movie theater? Maybe, maybe not. I think maybe this is something that you can contemplate and think about. And I think it was based on a book, right? I think I read that as well. So definitely go check it out. And very, very interesting for the times we live in to kind of have a story like this that resonates so well. So look, go check it out. Check out these views. Go like, subscribe, show versus business. We do this every week. We got another podcast coming out soon. But yeah, if you like what you hear, continue to comment. We'll give you a shout out and all that great stuff. So thank you for listening. Go check out one battle after another. If you like what you hear, definitely give me a shout out. We'll connect soon. Peace.